My name is Tonya, and I'm from a little town in Laurel, Indiana. And my family, um, my mom was from Indiana, and my dad was from Florida. So my childhood was a little rocky. Um, I guess you could say that for sure. It started out. Um, they they got divorced when I was young. My mom and dad got divorced when I was young. I was like 7. My dad moved to Florida, and we stayed here. It was kind of it was difficult. I think a lot of issues came from that, and my mom decided that she was going to start partying. So that's what the life that I was introduced to. After that, my grandparents, we lived in 2 little houses. My grandparents lived on one side, and we lived on the other side. And they were good Christian people. They tried their best to get us to do what was right. It was me, my sister, and my mom that lived in the house. It was us 3. My dad moved to Florida, and there he started a whole nother family. So at the early age, I smoked weed for the first time when I was like 7. So that's when it really kind of started. By the time that I was 15, I had caught my first charge, my first dealing case. Um, myself, and my mother were both arrested. My sister wasn't arrested. She didn't get involved in all of that. So I went to juvenile, and my dad came from Florida and got me and took me to Florida, and my mom went to prison. And I did my high school years in Florida, and then I came back here. I kind of I came back here on a Greyhound bus back to the state of Indiana. Back then, I hadn't used when I was in Florida, but when I came back here, I got caught up in everything all over again. I started using again. Started drinking when I was very young too, or drinking, doing Xanax and weed, the normal kind of thing. So when I got back here, I started using more. I ended up getting pregnant and ended up having my son. Um, and then I had him, and then I ended up getting pregnant again and having my daughter. But while I was pregnant with her, I was with her father, and he ended up getting in a car wreck and ended up getting killed in a car wreck. So at that time, I really spiraled out of control. I was going to school for to be a dental assistant, and I took the prescription pad and wrote some prescriptions. And next thing I know, the drug task force was contacting me. Little did I know, and then I dropped out of school and everything like that. Little did I know, it had nothing to do with that. I had picked a prescription up for one of my friends, and her brother had turned me in. So I took my kids and myself, and I took back off to Florida again. I was always running from myself. I thought there was some geographical cure, I guess, that was going to save me, and there wasn't. So I was back in Florida again with my 2 kids. So my sister came down there and ended up coming back here. I wanted to come home, but I was scared. I was facing charges here. So I was scared. And at that time, I really didn't know exactly what it was for. I still thought it was for the prescriptions I had wrote. So my sister ended up coming down there and staying with me, and brought my daughter back up here. So I ended up losing my daughter over it. I ended up going to jail down there for the warrant. So they brought me back up here on the plane in handcuffs and shackles. So So then things were just a little crazy. My life was still spinning out of control, still using more than ever. And at the whole time, through this whole time, I always partied with my mom. That was a thing that we just did. And so I'm back up here. Gary's passed away, and my life is just totally out of control. I ended up trying heroin. I did pain pills for the first time, and that just keeps spiraling. Before I know it, I'm using heroin, and I end up in trouble a lot. I end up in prison. Um, I'm in prison I've been to prison now 5 times. Um, and I say that humbly, not boastfully at all. Um, just a lot of things. I was always running for myself, thinking that I could save myself, or that the world had something for me, and that wasn't so. The last time that I got out of prison, um, I went to my sponsor's house, and I could never seem to stay sober. No matter what I done, I could not seem to stay sober. I always found myself back in the same cycle of addiction all over again, just over and over. And then I, um, I I called my friend up that I knew that I always had, I always knew God was real. There had been a time that I kind of stumbled with my faith. But for the most part, I always knew that God was real. And I found myself in a little church, in this little Pentecostal church in Richmond. And something happened to me that day. Something miraculously happened. And I knew that I was being called, but I could not, I just wouldn't submit. I wouldn't go. Like, I just wouldn't do it. And then I was still on the run. I was still out there using, doing the most. So I just want to go back a little bit. So when I was out there I'm using recklessly, um, my mom had passed away at my house due to an overdose. And then I ended up back in prison again. So that was another one of my prison extents that I did. Um, so the last time that I got out, got into another relationship, and my best friend OD'd and died, and that was on a Wednesday, and then I OD'd on a Saturday, and then that Monday, um, he passed away. My fiance passed away as well. And you would think like that would have been like the end and I would be done. But no, um, I wasn't. I still was just chasing it. Just definitely. I wound up in a little church, and I knew that I needed to go forward, and like I wouldn't. But I knew that God was chasing me. Um, I I ran out of the church house that day. Continued to run, continued to catch another case. By this time, I had lost everything. My daughter had been adopted. My son was using as well. He was all spun out on meth. Too. Because I didn't just do heroin, I did meth and anything else I could get my hands on. It didn't matter to me. So I was in trouble again with the courts, and I thought, I'm just going to go pacify them. I'm just going to go to treatment. I'm just going to go pacify them. And that's what I did. I went to treatment, but something happened while I was there. There was a lady that took interest in me, and she asked me if I ever heard about the House of Ruth, and I had, but I didn't really know that much about it. So she brought me the application in, and we done it, and they accepted me. So I went there on a Monday, and on Thursday we were going to Tommy Bates in Kentucky. So we went there, and another lady, her name was Beth, and she spoke on joy. And I went to the altar that night, and something changed. Something changed in me. I started seeking God, seeking the Lord, and like I've never been the same. I've never been the same. I had a radical encounter with Jesus that I can't explain. It was something supernatural. But he has rocked my world. He has changed my life. I'm definitely not the old person that I used to be. And he's done so much for me. He's opened so many doors for me. It's been over 2 years now, and like the place that when I first came in, I was so broken. Like I couldn't walk, I couldn't smile. I was broken, like spirit, soul, and body. Like I was all the way broken down. But he restored me. He restored everything about me, and I'm only here today because of that. I knew that I couldn't do it on my own, that I had to have him to help me. And that's exactly what he did. He's restored everything to me. He's restored my life back to me. My daughter, Better Days was having a Jesus Revolution movie at the theater. And just so happened my daughter was going to be there. So after 20-some years, I got to reunite with my daughter. Was just another God thing. Since then, I've had a grandbaby. Like, my son was still out there in active addiction. He's sober now. I'm doing really, really well. And I know that God's no respecter of person. What he done for me, he can do for anybody else. I'm just alive today to tell the story of the gospel and what he's done for me.